Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist. And 4 days ago, I got back from a week-long all-inclusive holiday in Greece. And as many of you know, with all-inclusive holidays, there are massive buffets of food, morning, noon and night. So I would love to say to you, I listened to my body and I enjoyed everything that I ate, and it was this terrific experience. No, I ate a lot of food and I felt uncomfortable about the amount of food I ate. I would feel physically uncomfortable after most meals, and I didn't feel hungry before most meals. And as someone with a history of binge eating and compulsive eating, there was a tension around this as well, which wasn't helping. And it was a friend's wedding, so the wedding party was staying in the same venue. And it was one of those holidays where I just felt quite, from the moment I arrived really, just quite uncomfortable in my own skin. I felt like a bit of a spare part. I didn't really feel socially comfortable with the people that I was with. Probably won't say more about it on the YouTube channel, even though I really doubt anybody in the wedding watches my YouTube channel, but you never know. And there's this mentality around holidays whereby it's like, whatever happens on holiday, food-wise, whatever, it doesn't count, right? Because you're on holiday. So there's this idea that you just eat everything that's available. Because when you get back, you know, you'll make up for it, or you'll be back in your routine, so it doesn't matter. It's this kind of all or nothing, got this window of time to just have a free-for-all, because then when you get back, like, everything's going to be contained again. And that kind of psychology around food is not helpful for me, but I could feel that it was there. There was a little voice in my head going like, it's okay, because you'll get back into balance once you get home. And this is where it gets a little sticky, right? Because there's an element of truth in this, right? You're outside of your routine. You're likely to eat more on holiday. And when you come back, if you're somebody who has, I don't know, a routine, or you're kind of okay with food most of the time, that you'll kind of fall back into that when you get back. So there's a certain truth around that that's not disordered. But on my way back, I'd had breakfast at the hotel, buffet breakfast. I'd had a buffet lunch. We got to the airport and our flight was delayed by an hour. So we're sitting in the lounge and they have all the free snacks as well in the lounge. And there's something, what is it about like the psychology of free food, right? So like I'm putting some of the snacks in my bag and I'm having drinks even when I'm not thirsty because it's included. And then I get on the plane and they serve a meal on the plane as well. Again, I am not hungry. I'm just feeling full up from this week, but I eat this meal. And then I finish the meal, and 5-10 minutes later, I'm thinking about I've got 2 small boxes of Smarties in my bag that I had taken from the airport lounge. And a thought pops into my head, I think I want to eat the Smarties. And then there was this sort of tension because I was so aware that I wasn't enjoying anything I was eating. I was feeling that day especially like I was sort of, I don't like this expression at all, but it's the one that came to my mind, so I'm just going to use it. I felt like I was just sort of shoveling food in for the sake of it. And I had this desire to eat the Smarties. And this other voice is like, but why? Like you're feeling like you're just putting food in your body that it doesn't feel good, that you don't really want. Why are you trying to eat the Smarties now? And then another part of me was like, oh, I just want to get rid of everything. Like I just want to get rid of all these sweeter foods, for want of a better word, so that when I get back, it's like a fresh start. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that kind of psychology, for me, like that's not helpful, because that's a slippery slope. To be saying to myself, I need to just eat up the food so that it's not there later. Like that is the old disordered thinking right there. And I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. So I have a choice here, because then part of me is going, well, then I better not eat the Smarties, right? And then I immediately I can feel the resistance, the tension to telling myself I can't have the Smarties, right? So I've got myself in this conflict over these Smarties. And then this question, and it's a question that Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun, she asks this question. And when she's talking about it, she's talking about all the little micro behaviors we do, like telling little white lies that kind of at the behavior level, they aren't big deals. But when she's saying, does it matter? She means like sort of, does it matter in your personal sense of morality and how you feel about yourself? Like little white lies can not be a big thing on the surface. It's kind of agreed that most people tell them sometimes. But the inner effect, especially the accumulation of little white lies, can be problematic. And so this question pops into my head at this time. I thought, does it matter if I eat the Smarties? Because the answer to that is always yes and no, right? No, it doesn't matter because it's just a box of Smarties. And the other side is yes, it does matter because it's reinforcing a belief system that I don't want to reinforce. So that's the reason for not eating the Smarties, not because I shouldn't have a box of Smarties. And then the alternative is I have a couple of boxes of Smarties tomorrow when I might actually really enjoy them. And I did. I had lunch and I had the Smarties afterwards. I don't think I've had Smarties for like 15 years. It's not the kind of sweets that I would ever think to buy. I don't think I've even said the word Smarties as many times as I have in this video. So what are the takeaways that I'm offering from my experience? I think first of all, like, one, I do overeat. And I thought recovery would be like always being in this flow with food, and I would never let it get to a point where I'd overeaten for 7 days in a row, because that means that I'm back in my disordered eating. And if I had catastrophized overeating, that would have just made it worse. I know from historical events in my life that if I catastrophize what I eat, it's even harder for me to find balance again. If you don't catastrophize it, then I maintain perspective and clarity. Like I have the moment of clarity on the plane where I'm like, oh, like there's some old thinking going on here. I've done enough work that I know that once I recognize the old thinking, then I can do something about it. But sometimes I don't recognize it. And that might have been going on a bit on holiday, a sense of like, screw it. Like, this is a difficult holiday anyway. I'm not feeling great. There's all this food around. Like, it doesn't matter because when I get back, everything's going to be different. I think some of that thinking was probably around, but I didn't recognize it. Had I become stressed about overeating, then I wouldn't have been able to have recognized it. And I appreciate it's not necessarily the most helpful advice. Just don't get stressed about it. But I guess it's seeing the value of accepting what you've eaten is what you've eaten. I can't change it. I can't go back and change it. If I ask myself now, if I could go back, would I do it differently? I don't know that feels like a helpful question, because I think based on how I was thinking and feeling at the time, I don't know if I could have necessarily done it differently without having the awareness of what was going on at the time. I'm using the awareness now to say, oh, if I had the awareness, maybe I'd have done it differently. Does that make sense? I don't know why I'm asking you a question, like I can hear your response. Maybe I should say, I hope that makes sense. But also when it comes to making a food decision, this is the takeaway point that I think might be helpful for people, is whether you're going to say yes or no to eating a food, what is the belief system you are reinforcing with that decision? What I mean by that is you could say, oh no, I'm not going to eat that thing over there because I will lose control, or I'm trying to be good, or like all of those things. By saying no, you're reinforcing that belief system of like fear and stress around food. And then the flip side of that was like my decision on the plane was like, well, if I choose in this moment, just in this moment with how I'm feeling, if I say yes to the Smarties, I'm reinforcing a belief system I don't want to reinforce. So that's what I want to leave you with. When you're making a food decision, what's the belief system? And do you want to be reinforcing that belief system? And speaking of trips and holidays, if you want to come to Dublin on Saturday the 16th of September, I'm going to be there co-hosting a workshop on the inner critic, and it would be great to meet some of you in person there if you are able to. I'll pop the details below. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.